What's up? How's it going? Thad Brown here along with Caleb Carr, Rachel Liebert. This is BKL Nightly, the Monday edition, after what was a game that will be talked about for a long time. Songs will be sung, poems will be written, pictures will be drawn. It was amazing. The Bills and the Ravens, Sunday night classic that the Bills won 41-40. And I'm thinking this is the first time we've done BKL Nightly on a Monday. And this is going to be a really cool conversation. And we will never top it. Like, what would be the thing that would come close? The Bills would have to win the Super Bowl, right? Exactly. That'd probably be the only thing, right?
Most likely.
Okay. So Caleb and I did BKL Nightly last night, wrapping up the game. And we had our, oh my God, what a game this was. Reaction. Mm-hmm. Rachel, you watched the game. You did not get your chance to kind of react to what happened. Give me your take on the unbelievableness that went down Sunday night.
Same reaction. Just, oh my God, like, how did they even do that? I had like no hope that they would do that with like 7 minutes to go and then 4 minutes to go. I was like, okay, maybe there's some time. I think every emotion you could have felt in a football game happened last night. The beginning of the game, it was just, oh my God, Derrick Henry is going to run all over this team and this is going to look really bad and who knows where we go from here. But I mean, somehow, some way, when you have the MVP of the league, I guess that's what happens. That's why he's the MVP. So, I mean, great. It was just a roller coaster of emotions. I'll just say that. It was crazy.
Crazy in a laughing haha way, or crazy in like, I just don't believe this has ever happened way?
Maybe both. I think I was laughing haha as in like, how did that just happen? That's so funny that just happened. Is that actually, like, did that actually happen? Did I just watch that? Because at no point in that game, I mean, first half, maybe they're in the game and you think, okay, they got a whole second half to go. But then time's running out and you're like, there's absolutely no chance that this happens. And then they, score 15, 16 points in 4 minutes. I mean, I just don't know. I think I'm still processing, actually, is what I'm figuring out as I'm talking about it.
Yeah, join the club. And just the fact that we're not quite sure what level of crazy it was, I think sums up the game very nicely. All right, let's move on to some news from today. Number one, the injury stuff. Not much. Good news for the Bills is they didn't suffer any new injuries in that game against the Ravens. Sean McDermott said Tre'Davious White's improving. A status update for him on Wednesday. The fact that we haven't seen him do much at this point makes me think that this is probably still a Dorian Strong game coming up on Sunday against the Jets. We'll get to Strong in a minute. As for Tyler Bass, he's on IR, but Sean McDermott did say that Tyler Bass is our guy, and that they, he's still obviously someone that they're going to support and want to be a part of the team. I may bring up, in fact, let's do this right now. I think there is a non-zero chance that Tyler Bass never kicks again for the Bills.
Caleb and I talked about this. This is what we talked about.
That's the conversation. Okay, now I'm on the same page now.
Yes.
100%, especially after last night. But even before last night, me and Rachel were talking about what would he have to do? What would Prater have to do for? I mean, the problem is he's 41 years old, and you don't. I don't think you want to, I guess, the quote unquote franchise kicker, but you don't want to make him your guy going forward because of how old he is. But what would he have to do? We were talking about what would he have to do for us to never see Tyler Bass again? And what he did last night is definitely step one, at least.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. Like, if you were going to, whatever that is, in terms of what the path is for Tyler Bass to be replaced, to be Wally Pipped by Matt Prater, which is funny because I think Wally Pipp was way older than Lou Gehrig, and then Lou Gehrig came in and whatever. Anyway, the analogy still holds. Regardless, whatever you think that path was, that game was 100% step one. Mm-hmm. So if you guys have talked about this already, because for all the viewers out there at home behind the curtain a little bit, I brought this up saying I didn't want to reveal it, and you guys said we had a thing, but we want to reveal that either. It turns out to be the same thing. Rachel, what was your kind of take on the potential of Tyler Bass not coming back?
The same thing. I mean, we talked about Tyler Bass last year. You never really had full confidence in Tyler Bass last year. And even, they at that one point brought in a kicker to kind of push him to see if he would take that next step. And he did that, whatever game, whatever week that was, he did what he needed to do. And then that situation was resolved. But I mean, he's not completely healthy. We don't know when he's going to be completely healthy. And even Caleb saying Matt Prater's old, but I think if any position that I'm going to feel okay with the guy being 41 years old, it's going to be a kicker. I think in that situation last night, if Tyler Bass was the guy that had to go out there and kick that game winner, I would have felt significantly less confident than I did with Matt Prater going out there. And even though, I haven't followed Matt Prater, but he has almost 2 decades of experience in the league. So I think him being old is not something that really concerns me as much, just being that he is a kicker, and that's a position that you need to be so consistent in. I mean, obviously every position, but just with his experience, I think there's a very good chance that Tyler Bass does not kick for the Bills again.
Oh, very good chance. I think is strong. I don't know if I go that far. Okay. There is a chance.
There's a chance.
I mean, I labeled it non-zero, which is probably as much as I want to put my name next to right now. But if we're going to talk about it, I mean, there's certainly a chance. Now, Sean McDermott said today, Prater is the kicker for the foreseeable future, which I found interesting because injured reserve has a very definite length of time that you have to be out. You know, if he wanted to say Tyler Bass was the guy, he could be like, well, Matt Prater's going to kick for the next 3 weeks and then we'll see. When you say foreseeable future, that opens the door to all kinds of fun possibilities. The thing with Prater, going back to, you know, what you said about him being old, he lost his job last year not because he was bad, but because he got hurt. And prior to that, in 2023, he made 9 kicks from 50 plus. He made a 62-yarder. So at least 2 years ago, the leg was plenty good. The thing that I back off on going to very good chance, one of the reasons I bring this up is, A, he was available in a league where there are a lot of teams that are just searching for kickers. You know, so if a guy that everybody liked and you know, was this dependable, was available, I think someone would have grabbed him by now. Number 2, he didn't lose his job because he was bad. He lost his job because he was hurt. But when you get old, what happens more often? You get hurt. So he might be good, and he might, you know, put the Bills in a spot where they think that, like, this is a better option than Tyler Bass, and then get hurt again because he's 41 years old. Regardless, though, I think it's a fun thought. And how many teams in the NFL, 2 kickers on their roster, were like, hey, you know what? I like this guy. I like this guy. Hardly anybody does, you know. So it's a good spot for the Bills to be in. Speaking of Matt Prater, so he is 41, as we talked about, and as someone who's more old than 41, to call him old, I'm a little bothered by that, but we're gonna let that go. But
in football terms,
yes,
terms.
I'm still bothered by it. All right, we'll just let that go for now. Regardless of that, the Bills addressed the old thing last night after the game, and they had some pretty funny comments about meeting Matt Prater for the first time. Apparently not. We will get back to the Matt Prater comments. Trust me, they were worth it. They were worth it. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay. Let's continue on with the conversation for today. And number 1, Josh Allen, was the topic of conversation for the coaches today. And every Monday, Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, Bobby Babich will meet with the media and discuss anything from the game, watching film, et cetera, et cetera. So Josh Allen's performance was really good. Caleb and I talked about this last night. The more you watch what he did, the more impressed I was with what he did. And that's saying a lot, you know, for Josh Allen. Caleb, did you find that at all, you know, waking up today kind of thinking, we may not have given him enough shine when we talked about him after the game on Sunday?
Definitely for his performance in the fourth quarter late in the game, 100%. You know, we talked a lot about guys like Ed Oliver and Keon Coleman and Joshua Palmer and Matt Prater and all these guys who made the plays, but Josh Allen made some pretty big plays down the stretch too. You know, even throughout the rest of the game, there wasn't, you know, the offense had its hiccups throughout the rest of the game, but there was at no point where I was like, Allen's really struggling today. There was at no point, which is usually what the cause is when the offense is not looking great. It's usually either there's absolutely no run game or Allen's throwing interceptions just isn't looking good. But throughout the whole game, I thought that he looked pretty consistent, pretty good, and then he just blew up in that fourth quarter. And just because of the number of other guys that also stepped up, I agree with you that I don't think we showed him enough love last night.
And that was fair because the other players who played well deserve. I mean, that comeback was not going to happen without 15 guys doing something, and a couple on the Baltimore side too. So, you know, I think that was a fair way to approach it. But for equal time, the Bills did talk about Josh Allen today, and hopefully everybody, you're going to hear from those people right now.
He's the best quarterback in the NFL for a reason. Very comfortable. He is. We are, as a result, very comfortable in those situations. You know, I can't even tell you what time we took the ball, what was left. I just know no timeouts, and I looked up and I'm like, got enough, we're good.
I'll never forget the Minnesota Vikings game where we fumbled backed up, the game was over, and you know the feeling of, oh my gosh, that I just potentially lost us the game in that situation. And I looked at him and he was as calm as can be and just led us right down the field, tied to go into overtime. That's who he is. I mean, he is you can't play this game without riding the highs and lows, and he's in those situations. Like, that's what quarterbacks kind of live for. You know, like you.
All right, so the Josh Allen game yesterday, as good as it gets, and the thing we were talking about in the office just a minute ago was there aren't many Josh Allen games that end with Josh Allen leading a game-winning touchdown drive. Most of the time the Bills are up 15 points, 30 points, whatever it is, and the game's over. There's a couple, but even the ones we tried to, like, just off the top of our heads, one of the first ones that came to mind to me was the game-winning touchdown he passed for in Arizona against the Cardinals that turned into a loss when the Cardinals hit the Hail Murray play. So, the Bills have been good front runners. They've been good at being ahead. But Allen being able to lead that game-winning drive, not that anyone believed he couldn't do it, I think was still, pretty impressive. Rachel, give me a little bit on this in terms of the Allen late-game stuff. Yes, the Bills have confidence he can do it because they've seen him do all kinds of crazy things, but there aren't a whole lot of game-winning touchdown drives on his resume.
Mm-hmm. I think it's extremely impressive, and I think one of the reasons maybe you guys didn't talk about it a lot is because that's what you expect out of Josh Allen, regardless if he has those game-winning drives or not, like to wind the clock all the way down. But I mean, you look at him, he had 250 passing yards in the fourth quarter alone. Like, that is just a crazy stat in itself. And then 3 total touchdowns. I mean, Josh Allen is the guy that you're going to feel comfortable, and Josh Allen was comfortable. Nobody seemed to be nervous, even when they didn't get that 2-point conversion at the end. It kind of just seemed like, okay, we got to go back down the field and do it all over again. So, I mean, to me, it's extremely impressive, regardless if, you expected it out of Josh Allen or not. I mean, this is what you want to see out of the MVP, and he did exactly, showed everybody. If you have any doubters that Lamar Jackson should have been the guy, I think Josh Allen last night showed that he is the guy.
Josh Palmer talked about how on the sideline coaches were like, don't worry, we're down, but we're going to get in there. And Josh Palmer's like, oh, really? Like, I've been down before. I usually don't ever come back, but it's different with Josh Allen, and obviously he kind of underlined that point last night. All right, I have fixed the problem, we believe, with the Matt Prater sound, so we're going to give this a run right now. But this is some of the Bills last night talking about meeting 41-year-old Matt Prater, which, as Caleb put generously, is old in football terms.
He walks into the special teams meeting, and I'm like, oh, we got a new coach. And then I'm like, wait, that's Matt Prater. Holy cow, this guy's been, like, balling in the league. Yeah. Like, and he just does what he does.
First time I seen him, I was like, is that a coach? And he comes out here, man, and he's a great dude. Comes out here, kicks a game-winning field goal. He's special, and I'm just happy to have him here with us.
The oldest guy in the world, ain't he? Shoot, I'm thankful for him. Keep your old ass with the Bills. Oh, man, I'm thankful for him. I'm glad that somebody could come in on Thursday and help us big, because every piece matters, and he came in, he understood the assignment, and he got the job done.
As promised, hilarious stuff. So, as much fun as the Bills had taking care of business against the Ravens late last night, there were some individual performances that stood out. Let's talk about one of the guys that was making his debut, Dorian Strong, the rookie corner. And this was not a game where a lot of Bills defensive backs were tested a ton. As we talked about a little earlier, it kind of felt like either the Ravens had schemed up something that was so wide open no one was going to cover it, or they didn't have to because Derrick Henry had run the ball for 30 yards already. Regardless, it seemed like, and if you go with what Carl Jones talked about on X today, our Bills Kickoff Live colleague, it seemed like Strong played okay. And we'll get into some of the other defensive backs in a while. Rachel's chomping at the bit to talk about a couple of guys. But I thought Dorian Strong generally was fine. Caleb?
Yeah, I agree. And, if you were listening to the broadcast, too, I believe at one point they talked about Dorian Strong and how they hadn't had to mention his name that much throughout the night. And that's kind of a similar thing with offensive linemen, is if you're not talking about them, then most likely they're having a good day. So he didn't make any highlight crazy plays, no interceptions, no huge pass breakups, no crazy tackles for losses or anything. But from a rookie cornerback that 3 weeks ago you weren't expecting to start this game, I don't think any Bills fans or coaches were really expecting him to go out there and have this amazing headline day. So to just go out there and get the job done and do what he needed to do, I think it's pretty positive for him, and just it looks like we might see more of him. So just as he continues to grow, I think we could start seeing those highlight plays.
The timing for this is pretty good. You get the Ravens, who aren't a superb passing team, followed by the Jets, who we don't think are a good passing team. So you get 2 weeks to try to work things out to see if Strong can handle the job. or if Trey White can take over when you get the Dolphins in a few days here. Rachel, your take on Dorian Strong here. I think you were generally down on the secondary, but I don't know if Strong is part of that group.
Yeah, I would say he wasn't. I think my main takeaway with Dorian Strong is that he didn't have a negative day, and I know that sounds like a negative thing to say, but as a rookie, being out there and the Ravens are your first test, they're not a strong passing team, but to say that we didn't see anything, like Caleb said, they didn't say his name much. I think that's the net positive, regardless of he wasn't tested a lot. There weren't too many, deep coverages he had to adjust to. Like there wasn't really anything we saw from him, but I think that's a positive in the grand scheme of he didn't have a bad day. We didn't see anything that we have to talk about with Dorian Strong. So I think that's good coming from a rookie getting his first start against a really good Baltimore team.
All right, let's move on to the BKL roundtable. We'll bang through a few topics quick here. Number one, a couple guys who starred who I think were very, very much positives. Keon Coleman and Josh Palmer, who combined for 13 catches, 173 yards, big plays left and right. Caleb, give me your take on where the Bills are at with these two receivers and how much of a difference maker they can be going forward.
We've talked a lot about Keon Coleman this offseason, and I, for one, was one of those people who was not as high on him. I'll be honest, I'm not fully yet, but I'm starting to eat my words a little bit. After last night, I was like, okay, wow, Coleman can be that guy. And Palmer looked like he can be that guy too. We've been talking all offseason about who's going to be that number one guy who can step up. It's almost looking like 1A, 1B, like possibly, and they still kind of have that everyone eats mentality. So we'll see if this continues week in, week out. But Coleman still had a couple drops, a couple plays where I was like, that doesn't look too good. But I thought he made up for it later in the game with some really big catches.
I was definitely more pro Palmer than Coleman. Coleman was fine, improved, but Palmer did some things that really impressed me in terms of being able to win routes and get open pretty quickly. Rachel, where were you on the two big name receivers from last night?
Yeah, I think this was one of Keon's better games maybe in the league overall. I mean, it wasn't a perfect game, but he did contribute to the offense a decent amount. I mean, especially in that fourth quarter that they needed to get the ball down the field quickly. Keon was a kind of a go-to target for them, but same with Josh Palmer. He had that one catch in the last 40 seconds of the game that kind of moved the ball down the field and was kind of the big, getting the ball into field goal range, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, from both of them, I think good things, not the Keon breakout is happening just yet, but I think from both of them, it was a positive for them last night.
All right, let's go to defensive backs now. Cole Bishop spent the night, at least early in the night, got pounded into the ground dribbled. Is that the word?
Like a basketball.
Yeah,
that's how I'm saying
I think any of those comments are probably accurate here. Rachel, this one is for you. Where are you with Mr. Bishop and how his first game of the year went?
I don't think it went great.
Yeah. Back to you.
Yeah, that's all I have to say. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I'm so it's such a toss up with Cole Bishop because we've seen what some of Cole Bishop is capable of, but then he continues to have big, something goes wrong and it's like a big moment. Okay, he gets stiff armed by Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's known for stiff arming people, and then it just happens to him and he gets laid out in the middle of the field. And it's like the spotlight is on him for, okay, that was Cole Bishop. That was not a good thing that Cole Bishop did. And I don't want to completely say he's playing horribly. I mean, it was week one, but at the same time, I think the secondary as a whole in that unit, Cole Bishop is the one that I'm most concerned about. And it was up until last week that Sean McDermott said, we don't even know if Cole Bishop's going to be that guy. So, I mean, it lines up with the fact that they don't know he's going to be that guy. And then he is out there and he doesn't perform great. So, I mean, I don't even know where we go with Cole Bishop from here. I don't know who that other guy would even be at this point.
They don't really have an option. They really don't.
So last night, I think, was not great for Cole Bishop.
There were major problems in the secondary. Whether those are Cole Bishop specific, I don't know.
Exactly, yeah.
But you are right he is at the top of the list in terms of concerns, which is saying something because there's a guy in the secondary we just talked about who just played his first ever NFL game.
Yep.
Caleb, I don't want to, it's one game. I don't want to totally get down on the secondary, but there wasn't anything really that Bishop did that stood out to me in a positive way. I might see some stuff when I watch the film, but watching the game, no.
No, yeah. For Bishop specifically, nothing really stood out. And to Rachel's point, I don't want to defend Bishop, and I don't want to say anything he actually had a great day or whatever, but you got stiff-armed by Derrick Henry hard to start the game. And Derrick Henry is a freak of nature, and he does that to a lot of people that are much better than Cole Bishop. So I think for a guy like Bishop, who's still only in his second year and he was out for some of the preseason, and to come back and for that to be one of your first big plays, not an excuse, but I'm sure that kind of hung with him for the rest of the game and maybe affected his play a little bit. So I'm hopeful that when we see a clean week 2 or, going forward in the season, that he starts to improve, and maybe the Ravens game wasn't a full, example of what he can be, but still not an excuse, but just something to think about.
Coming out of this game, it was a win, but there are major issues with this team for sure that the Ravens expose, and maybe not every other team in the league will be able to expose them. But let's real quick, 15 seconds or less, go around the table. Rachel, start with you. Give me your number one concern for the Bills coming out of this game.
I mean, it has to be the secondary for me. I know we just basically touched on why, but they weren't challenged as much. Obviously, the Ravens offense is so much built on the run, but even when they get through the Bills defensive line, and then there was a point last night, Joey Bosa was the one down the field, like in the end zone chasing, I think it was Derrick Henry. It's like the secondary just seemed like there was a lot of miscommunication last night. And I just think going forward, that's the group that I am most concerned about.
Caleb?
I agree largely with Rachel. Secondary is pretty concerning, but just something else to add. The Bills' run game on offense, that was pretty slow. It could just be a scheme thing. James Cook didn't really look like he had any huge holes anywhere. And Josh Allen he had a lot of attempts like we talked about earlier, but nothing really came of them. But could just be a scheme thing. We'll see how that goes in throughout the rest of the season, but something to think about.
Everything you can qualify with is just one game, but I'm with you. My number one concern is run game offense, because I felt like, to me, Josh Allen got more confident and felt things were less of a burden on him when the run game was working well. The Bills did not have that last night. In middle of the third quarter, I'm thinking it's Josh Allen doing Superman things or nothing on the offense. The Bills can't live like that all year. All right, fair time. What are you most confident about the Bills going forward after this game? Caleb, you can go first this time.
Not like a specific thing on the offense or the defense, but just all the new guys meshing together so well. You had Joshua Palmer come in and he played very well. Joey Bosa, although he didn't have anything crazy, to see him afterwards too, that hug he had with Josh Allen and just how the smile on his face in the locker room. I think a lot of these new guys, there was some concern about so many new people. How's it going to fit? But I think they're all meshing together really, really well.
Rachel?
Might not be the most thing I'm confident about, but I'm more confident than I was heading into the game. It's just the tight end room. I think yesterday they had a pretty solid performance. Kincaid was the first touchdown. I mean, we were kind of been talking about him and what he's going to do this season. Dawson Knox had a few grabs, and then Jackson Haas had that crucial grab at the, to come down on the 1 yard line. So I think the tight end room as a whole, I'm more confident about now leaving this game.
For me, it's Ed Oliver. And when you hear Bobby Babbitt say this was the best game he's ever seen from Ed Oliver, that is saying something. We didn't get a great Ed Oliver season last year. We did the year before. If he can continue to stack these games on top of each other, you might see the Bills find improvement on the defensive line that none of the 6 guys they brought in can reach in terms of that level. And Oliver has improved also as a leader. I've seen it talking to him, and the Bills coaches have talked about it. I don't know if those two things go hand in hand, but I'm definitely interested to find out. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, actually, nice little segue, by the way. We're going to talk more about Ed Oliver and the play he made late in terms of forcing that fumble. Big, big play for the Bills, for sure. We're back on BKL Nightly right after this. Thad Brown, Rachel Labert, Caleb Carr here on BKL Nightly. Guys, we talked about Ed Oliver briefly right before the break there, and he had one of the big plays of the game last night, forcing the fumble in the fourth quarter. Not his only big play, but the one I was most impressed by, because you think about that situation, everybody in the world knows about the only thing the Bills have in terms of an option is to create a turnover there. Both teams know, the ball carrier knows, the crowd knows, everybody knows. He still was able to force that fumble. And I talked with some of the guys, including AJ Epinesa, who I thought had a really good take on how Ed Oliver was able to make that play despite the adversity against making it happen.
Just being intentional. I mean, it seems very basic, I think, in elementary, but when you're thinking about stuff, you obviously do them. And then, in the moments happen, you revert to your training and you think, I just need to tackle this guy, get him down. But when you can kind of be intentional about, obviously the technique and everything comes, but if you're intentional about thinking, I'm going to get this ball out, we have to take it out, we need it back, we have to take it out. I'm sure that's what was on his mind, and it just happened. He said he got to it and just came out easy as cake.
To me, is that the best overall game he's played. but one of the better, it was a really good performance. And it's a credit to the way he's practiced over training camp. I think you guys saw it, and how disruptive he's been. Really cool to see Ed, even from last year to this year, has matured in a tremendous way. But and I'm talking football maturity, and he's really becoming a leader.
The leadership part to me is the thing that's most impressive. Because Ed Oliver has not been a guy, at least with the media, he's not a super warm and cuddly guy, to say the least. But to take that step to where you're, kind of in charge of the younger guys, you're an example. I'm not surprised that it's happened. It happens with a lot of guys when they get to this age. But Ed Oliver would not have been high on my list for guys to do that. And I don't know, again, how much that leads to good play. But regardless, we saw a different Ed Oliver in this game. And, guys, the impact that could have, I can't really even measure.
Yeah, he started to look like one of those guys in the defensive line that you have to game plan for.
100%.
Which I don't think... Maybe like you said, 2 years ago, he was really good. And so maybe depending on the team, but now he's starting to look like one of those guys that week in, week out, teams are going to be like, okay, we got to keep an eye on Ed Oliver. We got to look at Ed Oliver. And if he can keep that up, this defensive line, if Joey Bosa can keep going, it's going to be really nasty.
Yeah, in a game where the defense really struggled through the majority of the game, Ed Oliver was for sure the bright spot. And same thing, you didn't expect Ed Oliver to be the guy that they kept calling his name, forcing the fumble, getting a sack. I think it was 6 total tackles he came away with. So it's a really good thing to see, and just his growth from last year to this year. And apparently, like you said, Caleb, paired with Joey Bosa, it's going to be fun to watch.
The thing for me is that when you think about upside, other than Joey Bosa, there's no one on that defensive line that probably has Ed Oliver's upside. Maybe Deion Walker or TJ Sanders, because they're rookies. We don't know where they're going to be. But other than the cashing the lottery ticket kind of thing, Ed Oliver's ceiling is something that no one else on that defense can replicate. More of that will be good for more of the Bills. All right, that's all for this show. We'll be back in tomorrow. Me and Carl Jones will be breaking down the film, talking about the X's and the O's from Bills and Ravens. Should be very fun. Thanks to Caleb and Rachel. We'll see you again all together on Thursday on BKL Nightly.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.